Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we delve into a case that shattered the illusion of small-town safety and became a decades-long pursuit of truth. The murder of Danni Houchins. This is the story of a vibrant teenager and the eventual stunning revelation of her killer. A man who lived silently among the community for 28 years, only to be caught by a few preserved strands of hair. The year was 1996. The setting, Belgrade, Montana, a quiet, sprawling community nestled near the dramatic peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Life here felt safe, centered around school sports and the great outdoors. Danni Houchins was only 15, a high school freshman described as vibrant, full of life, and loved by her family and friends. We should pause here to appreciate the kind of community Belgrade was, one where neighbors felt secure and teenagers often enjoyed the outdoors unsupervised. Danni was a typical Montana teenager, often found exploring the local area, especially the nearby rivers and trails. On Saturday, September 21st, 1996, Danni left her home in Belgrade to take a walk. She often did this, heading towards a peaceful, secluded area near the East Gallatin River. She was planning to meet a friend, but the exact details remained vague. The walk was routine, but this Saturday, Danni never returned. When Danni missed her curfew, panic set in. Her father, Houchins, immediately called the police. An extensive search was launched almost instantly. The community rallied, scouring the rural roads, fields, and riverbanks. The search involved hundreds of volunteers, police, and search and rescue teams, all looking for any sign of the missing girl. We can imagine the chilling effect the sound of the search helicopters had on the town. The search ended in tragedy early the next morning. Danni's body was discovered in shallow water near the East Gallatin River, about 10 miles outside of Bozeman. The location, once a place of natural peace, was now a horrific crime scene. It was immediately clear Danni had been murdered. Investigators quickly determined Danni had been raped and suffocated or asphyxiated, with her cause of death listed as strangulation/drowning. The violence suggested a brutal personal attack, yet there was no obvious link between the victim and the perpetrator. This was a terrifying realization for the community. Danni Houchins was the victim of a random crime of opportunity. During the initial forensic examination, investigators found and meticulously collected physical evidence. Crucially, they recovered seminal fluid and 4 strands of hair from the victim's body and clothing. We must understand the limitations of 1996 forensics. DNA analysis was performed using techniques that required a larger, cleaner sample than modern methods. The profile they did manage to create was run against CODIS, which was relatively new and held only a fraction of the profiles it does today. As expected, there was no match. Police quickly interviewed Danni's friends, family, and acquaintances. Her boyfriend and close associates were polygraphed, alibied, and fully cooperated. Every known person in Danni's life who could be connected was thoroughly investigated and eventually eliminated as a suspect. The detectives realized the killer was a stranger, leaving them with no identity, no vehicle description, and no concrete motive. As weeks turned into months, the initial leads evaporated. The DNA profile yielded nothing. The Houchins family was left with profound grief and a terrifying question. Who was the stranger that targeted their daughter, and was he still out there? The case officially went cold, but the original detectives made one critical decision. They preserved the evidence perfectly, recognizing its future potential. For nearly 25 years, the case lay dormant. Danni Houchins became known as Gallatin County's most notorious cold case. The police maintained the case file, reviewing it occasionally, but without new technology or a fresh witness, there was nothing to move forward. Meanwhile, the family endured the torturous reality of unsolved murder. their lives permanently scarred. The tide finally turned in the 2010s. A new wave of cold case detectives, energized by the success of forensic genetic genealogy in other cold cases, saw a new hope. Around 2019, the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office began a renewed effort. They knew the original evidence, especially those few strands of hair, held the key. The original preserved evidence was retrieved from storage. This is where we pause to appreciate the work of forensic scientists like those at Astria Forensics. They used modern, highly sensitive techniques, such as low copy number DNA testing, to extract a viable sample from the degraded evidence. This high-quality sample was then sent to Parabon Nanolabs in Virginia for the crucial step, DNA phenotyping. The DNA profile was then uploaded to public DNA databases like GEDmatch, specifically those that cooperate with law enforcement. This is where the investigative magic began. The system didn't give them the killer's name directly, but it returned a match to a distant relative, perhaps a third or fourth cousin. This was the critical investigative lead. Two key figures, Private Investigator Tom Elfmunt and Sergeant Court Depwig, began the painstaking work of forensic genetic genealogy. This is not a simple computer search. It means building an entire family tree, often spanning hundreds of people and going back generations, all to trace the common ancestor connecting the relative's DNA to the killer's DNA. This process can take thousands of man-hours. Through tireless work, cross-referencing old birth, marriage, and death records, along with newspaper archives, the investigators painstakingly narrowed down the massive tree. They focused on individuals who lived in the Bozeman area in 1996. The focus began to point towards a single individual, Paul Hutchinson. The eventual target of the investigation was Paul Hutchinson. At the time of the murder in 1996, Hutchinson was a Montana State University student who lived nearby. Critically, he had no criminal record, meaning he had never been in the CODIS system. He was married with children and later enjoyed a long, respected career as a civil servant with the Bureau of Land Management in Dillon, Montana. He was the definition of an unsuspecting, normal person. This dichotomy, the quiet professional and the brutal killer, is what makes this case so chilling. Investigators needed to confirm the DNA. They placed Hutchinson under surveillance. Using classic police tactics, they waited until he discarded an item that contained his DNA, such as a coffee cup or straw, discarded into a public trash receptacle. The sample was collected, rushed to the lab, and the results came back. It was a definitive, 1 in a trillion match to the seminal fluid and hair found on Danni Houchins 28 years earlier. In July 2024, Detectives Elfmunt and Sergeant Depwig traveled to Dillon, Montana to conduct a non-custodial interview with Paul Hutchinson. During the nearly 2-hour interview, Hutchinson grew visibly distressed. Investigators noted he was sweating profusely, his hands were shaking, and he was chewing on his hand. When shown a picture of the 15-year-old Danni Houchins, Hutchinson slumped in his chair. He maintained his innocence, but displayed profound anxiety. The day after his interview, Paul Hutchinson died by suicide. His actions, coupled with the definitive DNA evidence, provided the final, tragic confirmation of his guilt and closed the case. Paul Hutchinson was Danni Houchins' killer, a stranger who committed a random crime of opportunity. For Danni's family, the emotional reality was complex. They were denied the satisfaction of seeing the killer face a jury and receive a sentence. However, after 28 years, the most important question had been answered. They knew who took Danni Houchins. The years of doubt, the town whispers, and the fear could finally come to an end. The case stands as a powerful testament to the dedication of cold case detectives and the revolution of forensic technology. It underscores the vital lesson that no case is truly hopeless and that the meticulous preservation of evidence, no matter how tiny, can ensure that future technology ultimately delivers justice. Danni Houchins was a bright light extinguished far too soon in a random act of violence. Her story serves as a reminder of the thousands of cold cases waiting to be solved and the enduring hope that science can one day provide the same measure of truth for every victim. Thank you for watching. If you found this case compelling, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime and forensic breakthroughs.